Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the FutureScope Heritage XR program briefing event. We're going to be getting started in just a few moments, so please get comfortable. Okay, brilliant. I think we have enough people to get started. So welcome everyone to the FutureScope Heritage XR program briefing event. I'm Sarah Aitchison, Innovation Partner at Digital Catapult, and I'm going to be your host for today. So a quick bit of housekeeping before we get started. We will be recording this session and publishing it for your awareness. And we will also be having a Q&A slot in about 30 to 40 minutes into the agenda. So you should be able to see a Q&A button in your Zoom window. So please do ask any questions that you have throughout the speakers, and we'll be able to ask any of your burning questions at that point. So really do please utilize that. So a quick run through of the agenda today. You're going to be hearing from myself and Nicole as an introduction to Digital Catapult for those of you who aren't familiar with our organisation, as well as an introduction to the Heritage XR programme and what it entails, as well as a bit of information of what we're really looking for in your applications. I'll then be handing over to Tanya, who's going to be giving an introduction to Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival, who are working in partnership on this programme, to give a bit more insight into some of the stories and their ambitions for the programme. We'll then have the slot, as I mentioned previously, for the Q&A. So as I said, please do really utilise that function. We really want to see what questions you have for us. And then I'll be passing over to Chris, who'll be giving an introduction on to Wired Sussex and the Fuse Box and the support that they're going to be giving on the programme. Finally, I'll be passing over to my colleague, Charles Waples, who'll be giving the wrap up and call to action for those of you that have hopefully inspired to apply to the Heritage XR programme today. So a quick introduction, you've heard from myself, and I'll also be handing over to Nicole Stewart-Rushworth, who's Immersive Technologist at Digital Catapult. Then we'll be going to Tanya Peters, who's Director of Programme Participation at BDBF. Then to Chris Chowan, who is Innovation and Technology Manager at Wired Sussex. And finally to my colleague, Charles Waples, who's Innovation Delivery Manager at Digital Catapult. So I wanted to get started with a bit of an introduction to who is Digital Catapult for those of you who are unfamiliar to us who are delivering the programme. So we are the UK Authority on Advanced Digital Technology, and our mission is to accelerate industry adoption of advanced technologies, driving growth in the UK economy. We create new opportunities through collaboration and innovation. We do this through specialised acceleration and innovation programmes such as Heritage XR, but we also build testbed facilities so that people can run pilots and proof of concepts, bringing down those barriers to entry. We also inform policy recommendations, working closely with government through leading research on emerging tech trends. We also do this through occupying a really unique space in the marketplace in our neutral positioning, which allows us to work with both government, startups and scale-ups, corporates and industry, investors and academia all together. So we really can operate with all parties that work in the business ecosystem. We do this in three main application areas. So this is virtualization and cyber physical systems, digital and resilient supply chains, and open and interoperable digital infrastructure. This is underpinned through 5 key technologies. This is future networks, so 5G and IoT, immersive technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, distributed ledger technologies and distributed solutions, and quite newly and excitingly, quantum technology. So our goal is to accelerate the new possibilities for every business we touch. And we're hoping that some of you today who applied for the Heritage XR programme can be brought along on that journey as we break down barriers, de-risk innovation and open up new markets to responsibly and sustainably shape the products, services and experiences of the future. In our past, we've worked with over 3,000 businesses supporting 1,700 early stage startup and scale up businesses. And these businesses have gone on to raise £436 million of early stage funding as a direct result of our work. So we're really excited, hopefully, for some of you to join us on this journey and work towards these goals through initiatives like the Heritage XR programme. So now you have a better idea of who it is behind running this programme. I'm going to give a brief introduction to the Heritage XR programme, what you can expect from it, and what we're really looking for in your proposals for the programme. So it's a 16-week program where 3 selected companies will work together with Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival, Wired Sussex and Digital Catapult to experiment with advanced digital technologies to develop demonstrators of innovative experiences that allow the public to access and engage with heritage stories in new and captivating ways. We're really excited to be working in collaboration with Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival and Wired Sussex on this programme. I won't go into too much detail about them because you'll be hearing from them both in more detail later on today, but we're really excited to be working in collaboration with Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival, who are an arts charity made up of a historic events venue, a music education service, and the biggest curated cross-arts festival in England. They'll be providing the rich cultural history of the Royal Pavilion estate, as well as their extensive experience working in the arts to support the organisations that join the programme. And we'll also be proud to be working with Wired Sussex, who support the sustainable growth of digital media and technology clusters south of London in the Sussex area. And so they'll be providing some of their amazing facilities as well as their technology support to the programme. So some of the benefits that you can expect from the programme is we're offering £20,000 of funding for your demonstrator development to the 3 organisations that are going to be joining the programme. It's also an amazing opportunity to collaborate with the organiser of the largest curated annual arts festival in England, Brighton Festival. You'll also be getting tailored technical and concept development support from Digital Catapult technologists, BDBF and Wired Sussex. So you're no short of the support that you can get from this programme. You'll also get access to state-of-the-art testbed facilities in Brighton, as well as access to the Fusebox working space, which Chris will be talking through a bit later. You'll also get tailored technical and business workshops that will help you to develop and improve your demonstrator, as well as your wider organisation's business. And then finally, we'll be wrapping up the programme with an exciting showcase in Brighton, where you'll be able to demonstrate your demonstrators to an invited audience of ecosystem members to really being able to elevate your brand presence. So now you've got a better idea of some of the benefits that you can access. I'm going to run through what you can expect will happen in the programme. So up until end of February, we'll be going through the open call and selection process, which my colleague Charles will be talking a bit about later on in the event. And then we'll be kicking off the programme at the end of February with the concept development phase. We've split the programme into 2 key phases, the first being the concept development phase, where you're focusing on honing and ensuring that your idea is feasible to deliver over the next 3 months. And the 3 months following that will be developing your product and your demonstrator. So we'll kick off at the end of February, beginning of March, with a commencement event where you'll get to meet the other cohorts and the other stakeholders who you'll be working with on the programme, and you'll get a better understanding of how we're going to work together over these next 3 months. Then we'll have a business health scan, which is Digital Catapult's way for us to get a 360 view of your organisation and your product, so that we can really tailor the support that we can offer you on the programme. Then we get into the nitty-gritty, which is going into the technology roadmap and scope of work support, where we're going to support you to develop these ideas so that by the end of this month, you have a really clear idea of what you're going to deliver over the following product development months and how you're going to do that with our support. And we'll end this with a bit of an informal pitch just with the other cohort members, so that you can share kind of your learning so far and update on what you're going to be delivering. Then we get into the real stuff, which is the product development. And so you'll be wholly focused on building your demonstrators. And we'll be there from Digital Catapult, Wired Sussex and Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival, providing the support that you need, whether it be technical, product, or generally just iterating on your product development. We'll also be providing the programme workshops, which will be heavily based off the business health scans that we'll do previously. So really allowing us to tailor the programme to suit those who are joining as participants. And obviously throughout this, we'll have peer networking as an opportunity to share best practices, as well as get to meet some other members of the immersive ecosystem. And as I said previously, we'll end this in June with a big showcase event in Brighton, where there'll be an invited audience of industry stakeholders that you can interact with and showcase your learnings and what you've created over the previous few months. So now hopefully you have a better idea and we've sparked your interest in the programme and you want to understand a bit more of who is eligible to apply for the programme. So we're looking for any organisation in the UK, whether that be startups, scale-ups, creative studios, developers, or consortia built of a mixture of these who are currently working in the immersive space. We're really looking for those who either have already a commercialised immersive product or installation or a nearly commercialized one. And this is because you are going to be working solidly on the few months working and experimenting with 5G and other advanced digital technologies, as well as developing the content based on the Royal Pavilion estate. So we really want to be mindful of what you can do in those kind of 3 to 4 month period. We also ask that you at least have a 5G use case, as well as any other advanced digital technology that you'd want to work with. You don't need to have 5G experience to join this program, but you need to have an idea of how 5G, as well as any other advanced digital technologies, could augment or increase the experience that you're working with. Again, similarly, you don't need to have worked in the heritage space before, although we really encourage you to lean heavily on BDBS resources, as they have a wealth of information about the heritage of their sites. And we really encourage you to get in touch with them so that you can have the most contextually accurate demonstrator proposal possible. But we do ask that you have the necessary skills required for your proposed project. So we ask that from the immersive side and anything else in the product development, you are prepared to be able to deliver that with your project team. So now that you have a better understanding of kind of who we're looking to apply, we're going to break down the selection criteria of really what we're looking for in your proposal. So as you can see, these are weighted a little bit differently, and this is reflected in the application form. So one of the most important being the programme relevance. We're really looking for applications that show a good understanding of the brief with a clearly defined demonstrator, combining the history and heritage of the Royal Pavilion estate with an engaging and interactive experience that can be enjoyed by a range of audiences. As I was saying earlier, there's a real wealth of information available about the Royal Pavilion estate, which Tanya will touch on later. And we really encourage you to ask any questions or get in touch so that you can access this information. For technical feasibility, we're looking for a clear and achievable proposal within the time frame, as we're aware that 3 to 4 months is not the longest period. So we really want to see that you have a clear understanding of what you can deliver in those few months. And this goes hand in hand with having the appropriate team experience, as I was saying, that you have the relevant immersive production, technology and business skills and know-how to be able to deliver this project over those few months. And inclusivity is a really important one to us, and we want it to be at the heart of the demonstrators. So we really want to see how you're building your demonstrator and in its planned design, content, and how it's ultimately received by audiences, you're including inclusivity from that side. And obviously, we're always looking for original ideas. So we really want something that's outside of the box and is going to push the boundaries for the immersive content and innovation in the heritage sector. And then finally, we're also looking for how you're thinking beyond the Heritage XR programme and the commercial potential of your proposal. So we're really looking for things that you can take forward from the programme, as well as an understanding of how you might do this. So now that you've got a better idea of this, I just want to touch on briefly some of the possibilities with 5G, as we're aware within the audience that this might be the technology that you're least familiar or comfortable with. So 5G is the 5th generation of wireless communications technology, which can give improved services in just a few areas, including reduced network delays, increased data transfer capabilities, increased network capacity, increased reliability, and increased security. So this means that tangibly for your products, that devices are able to transmit and receive more data. There's improved interaction in the virtual environment, and there's also increased distribution possibilities. So hopefully this gives you an idea of the possibilities of how you can augment your immersive experience with 5G. And so with that, you've heard me for long enough. And so I'd like to invite Nicole Stewart-Washworth, who's immersive technologist at Digital Catapult, to join me on screen. And she's going to talk a bit about immersive and what that means to us on the programme. And so over to you, Nicole, if you'd like to share your screen.
Will do. Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a lovely rainy Tuesday morning. I'm just getting my slides up. Perfect. So as Sarah said, I'm Nicole Stewart-Rushworth, immersive technologist on the team at Digital Catapult. I'm going to talk very briefly about what we mean by immersive in regards to this challenge. So we are using immersive as quite the wide umbrella term, so encompassing everything from virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, but also expanding that to experiences that use real-time technologies, including interactive screen-based experiences, 360 audio experiences. Also, we're looking at how maybe haptics and other sensory systems and virtual production could potentially be a part of these demonstrators. We're really looking to see how immersive technologies can play a role in the heritage sector and inspire audiences to engage with the content that Brighton venues have pulled together. Some of you may be familiar with our Creative XR programme, which funded prototypes up to £20,000, so similar to this, and just kind of give you a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of a teaser of what came out of that programme. I've got a short video now. So I think probably don't have any sound. There is just kind of some nice music. So there's no speaking so much in this one, but it gives you a little taste. It's only a couple, 30 seconds long. And I will just kind of pause that there because that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of the programme. We're really interested in how some of those themes can also be related to the heritage sector. And I believe that Tanya and Amanda are going to talk a little bit to that as well. I look forward to seeing your applications and seeing what you have to put forward for Heritage XR. And I'll hand back over to Sarah. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much, Nicole. So if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing screen. Perfect. Thank you very much. So now I would like to pass, pass over. I would like to invite Tanya Peters, who's Director of Programming and Participation at Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival, to turn your camera on and unmute yourself and join me on the virtual stage as you give an introduction to your organisation and some of your ambitions for the programme. I'll stop sharing now.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks, Nicole. It's all starting to become real. Ooh, very excited about all of this. So I'm Tanya. I'm Director of Programming and Participation at Brighton Dome and Festival. Just going to share my screen because it's all the rage. I'm going to assume that that is all working okay.
It's just loading at the moment, Tanya, so just give it, oh, there we go.
Is it?
Perfect. Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, so thanks a million. Here are a few bits about us, a few bits of information. Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival is one of the UK's leading arts organisations. We're an NPO, that's a National Portfolio Organisation of Arts Council England. In a nutshell, we aim to enable artists to be their most creative, and we promote the power of the arts to enrich and change lives in many different ways. In our annual programme, we're presenting the region of 600 events across art forms and including participatory and community work for all ages and tastes. Here's a pretty picture of the Dome Concert Hall. We've got 3 venues, which we use the Dome Concert Hall for large-scale standing gigs of around 1,800 capacity. We're very much on the national touring circuit for all of the big bands. And we also programme things in here like contemporary dance, literature events, conferences and so on. Those are for around 1,600 seated audience members. Here's a slide of a show that we did in the Corn Exchange. We use the venue a lot for circus and dance and theatre. It's a really flexible, massive space, actually, about 53 metres long. And we love using it for standing events and for cabaret style events. When we do reopen, we'll have a larger seated capacity than before, with audiences of 500 for mid-scale touring performances. And we'll have an ability to deliver standing shows of around 1,000, which I am very excited about. Also under redevelopment at the moment is our studio theatre, which is pictured here with a show by Shakespeare's Globe called Shakespeare Untold. It's an intimate space with a seated capacity of around 220 that's gorgeous for theatre shows, but we also love hosting comedians doing warm-up gigs, as well as things like Spectrum, which is our grassroots music events that we produce that showcases local bands with a standing audience of around 350. So those are our venues. Now, Brighton Festival. Oops, sorry. Back in 1967, Brighton Festival's inaugural programme included Laurence Olivier, Anthony Hopkins, Yehudi Menuhin, The Who, Pink Floyd, and an event entitled The Bonfire of Hideous Objects down on the beach. Nowadays, we're the largest annual multi-arts festival in England. For 3 brilliant weeks in May, we present a curated programme across art forms, including theatre, contemporary and classical music, dance, spoken word, visual arts and circus. Shows take place in countless venues across the city in unusual locations and outdoors. The programme is curated by a new guest director each year. They've included Anish Kapoor, Brian Eno, Kay Tempest, and we recently announced our guest director for 2023, which is the musician, DJ and broadcaster Nabiha Iqbal. Through our Create Music and one second, just waiting for my slides to load. Through our music and education services, Create Music and Future Creators, we teach music to over 5,000 school children every week, developing cultural skills and employment opportunities for young people across the city and all of West Sussex. I think that my slide deck is sort of jumping around a little bit, so sorry about that. But hopefully what you're looking at now is an architectural render of the newly renovated buildings that we will be launching next year. So we're due to complete a £30 million project to renovate the Brighton Dome Corn Exchange and Studio Theatre. It's the first phase of a major capital redevelopment, part of a master plan for the Royal Pavilion estate. There are loads of exciting parts to this redevelopment. Previously, the public never had a sense of how the different venues related to each other spatially. So when we relaunch these venues, there should be more of a porous feel. You'll be able to be standing up in the bar having a pint or drinking your G&T and looking through the enormous restored windows down into the Corn Exchange. You'll be able to see technicians setting up for an event or perhaps rehearsals taking place. You can also see up into the new creative space and take a peek at what artists are up to up there. This estate is a world-class heritage site. It's got a mix of grade 1 and grade 2 listed buildings. You've got the Royal Pavilion, which is the Royal Palace, the one that looks a bit like the Taj Mahal. You've got an international art gallery and museum, a grade listed heritage garden, as well as these 3 iconic performance spaces, all together in one place. The ambition of the master plan is for the cultural heart of our city to be restored and reunited. Through our collaboration with brilliant partners, Digital Catapult and Wired Sussex, we're chuffed to have a 5G testbed in our venues, the only one located in a cultural space like this. And when we relaunch our newly redeveloped spaces, they will also be 5G enabled. Earlier this year, we delivered the world first 5G festival as part of a major consortium partnership, which included the Digital Catapult, Warner Music, O2, Metropolis Studios, amongst others. Excuse me. Musicians were in different locations, some at the O2 Blue Room and over in Metropolis Studios in London, and on stage in front of a live audience at Brighton Dome, performing together as a band in time and with no perceptible lag. Quite an amazing experience with a lot learned, quite inspirational in terms of what could be possible in the future using 5G. We regularly commission artists, and in particular, we have a reputation for presenting immersive and site-specific works of live performance during Brighton Festival. We commission and present shows by innovative artists that engage on a meaningful level with audiences, creating shows that stay in a collective memory for years to come. Companies like Dream, Think, Speak, pictured here in their show, The Rest is Silence, which took place in an industrial estate, highly acclaimed immersive show Before I Sleep that took over a dilapidated department store for several weeks and lit up audience members' imagination as they made their way through installations of underwater scenes, snow-covered landscapes and futuristic department stores where countless languages are spoken, and the only way out is through the back of a fridge. Other companies have included Frantic Assembly with their large-scale show that transformed and took over an old Art Deco hotel. Also pictured here is Operation Black Antler, a collaboration between Blast Theory and Hydrocracker, described as an immersive theatre piece that invites you to enter the murky world of undercover surveillance and question the morality of state-sanctioned spying. We just love artists who play with form and subvert preconceptions about what theatre is and how theatre should be experienced by audiences. We're only relevant as an arts organisation if audiences feel the work we present is relevant to them and to their lives and experiences. We're committed as an organisation to being accessible to everyone, and we're hopeful that your proposals will have accessibility baked in as a guiding principle. Diversity and inclusivity is vital to the programmes of activities we present, both of the artists and creatives, as well as the audiences and communities that we hope to attract. So we know there are some audiences and artists that we aren't yet managing to engage with, and we hope that projects like this are an opportunity to do just that. We hope this project will reach a diverse cohort of potential applicants too. We would love if you could help us to do that by pushing this opportunity out to as many diverse artists and organisations in your networks. We're proud of our heritage and we want to celebrate our stories. Heritage XR is an opportunity for us to encourage inspiring applications that will cultivate curiosity and capture audiences' imaginations. We're driven by pushing boundaries, by constantly doing things in new and interesting ways. So for us, that is what this project is all about. Interpretation in the heritage sector and the ways historical stories are told is moving at pace. There's hugely receptive market for new innovative approaches as the public continues to seek out new ways of learning about the past and honouring what's gone before. To do that though, you need some great source material, and we're so lucky to be up to our eyeballs in research, facts and stories. We're also really lucky to have some amazing research volunteers who've been trained up and are able to look in more detail at particular aspects that you might be interested in finding out more about. Pictured here are some of the incarnations of the Dome venues over the years, particularly the Corn Exchange here. I'll give you a snapshot of a couple of the ways that the Corn Exchange has been used, just as examples of the sorts of themes that you may want to play around with, but they really are just examples. During World War I, between 1914 and 1916, over 4,000 wounded Indian soldiers were nursed back to health at temporary hospitals set up inside the Royal Pavilion and the Dome. There were over 700 beds for injured soldiers across the Royal Pavilion estate, with the most seriously injured being treated in our Corn Exchange. 9 kitchens were established, most of them in tents erected on the lawns, catering separately for Muslim, Hindu and Sikh soldiers. There were also separate bathhouses, mortuaries and operating theatres. And inside the Dome, now the concert hall, recuperating soldiers were entertained with organ recitals and magic lantern shows. They also engaged with sports and even trips to London. Another lovely image here, your top right, is of the Corn Exchange when it was used as a roller rink. By the 1870s, apparently, there was a national craze for indoor roller skating called Rink-O-Mania, which sounds a bit like a nasty disease. But the Corn Exchange roller rink started in 1874 and was a huge success, with hundreds of townspeople visiting each week until it closed in 1910. And I don't know if the image is big enough for you to see, but right at the back of the Corn Exchange there are live musicians pictured accompanying the skating, which is pretty cool. So there are a few more examples here, coming back to our lovely timeline that Alex was part of making, who's one of our panelists. Another example that leaps out at me, in January 1910, 2 suffragettes, Eva Bourne and Mary Lee, were arrested at Brighton Dome. They were discovered hiding inside the organ in what's now the Dome's concert hall. Their plan was to protest by interrupting a speech being delivered by Prime Minister Asquith, perhaps kick-starting a long-running affinity with the protest movement in Brighton. In 2018, Brighton Dome became officially recognised as one of the 41 buildings across England that were at the centre of suffragette action. The iconic Brighton Dome, originally built as the Prince Regent's riding stables, has formed the backdrop for thousands of memorable experiences for over 200 years. The venue where ABBA won the Eurovision Song Contest and where 2 years earlier Pink Floyd first performed Dark Side of the Moon. Over the decades, the venue's welcomed a ton of leading artists, including Paul Robeson, Stevie Wonder, Ella Fitzgerald, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Beyonce, Stormzy, David Bowie. I could go on and on. This timeline shows some of the key milestones that have happened over the history of the site and hopefully piques your interest. Some more information can be found on the links in the Open Core resource documents, and you can find out loads more about our history stories at brightondome.org. If you find your way, once you get to our website, to the history and heritage pages, which looks like this, you can take your pick of various areas of interest down the left-hand side, which is being added to all the time. Thank you so much for your interest in the project. It is possible to arrange for site visits of the Corn Exchange, although the times available are very limited and they tend to be on a Tuesday from 3:45, quite specific. If you'd like to get on site, let us know as soon as possible. We will try to accommodate as many requests as possible. If you've got questions about heritage stories or perhaps want to access specific resources, please make that known and we'll do our best to respond to those requests. We really want your applications and projects to be brilliant. So of course, we'll do everything we can to support that. Thanks so much. Really looking forward to hearing about your ideas. Back over to you, Sarah.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tanya. I think that was an amazing job of really bringing to life the real rich cultural heritage of the Royal Pavilion estate. And hopefully that has inspired some of you about some of the kind of ideas for your proposals. Brilliant. So we now have about 20, 25 minutes for a Q&A session. I can see quite a few questions have come in, which is amazing. So I'd love to invite Tanya Peters back again with your camera on and unmuted, Alex Epps from BDBF, Amanda Jones and Chris Chowan, and we can answer kind of some of your questions. In the first instance, I'm aware that I haven't introduced yet Alex Epps and Amanda Jones, so I'd just like to hand it over to you just to give a quick introduction to yourselves before we get into the questions. So over to you, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I work with Tanya in programming participation. I'm here to answer any questions about the heritage that Tanya just talked about, so suffragettes or Rinkomania or any of the things that Tanya's just mentioned. So I'm here for that.
Very varied amount. Thanks, Alex. And Amanda?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Jones. I'm an associate director nowadays with Brighton Dome Brighton Festival, having spent 13 years as their deputy chief executive. Happy to take questions on the Royal Pavilion Estate Master Plan, on the capital project, on the organisation in general, and indeed heritage interpretation if needs be.
Amazing, thank you. And Chris, actually, you'll be talking a moment, but if you want to give a quick introduction as well, as you've not spoken yet.
Thanks for that. I'll be introducing myself later and talking a bit about the fuse box. But if before then you have any questions about the fuse box or Innovation Hub, then I'm here to answer them.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for joining. So if we get started with the questions, I think I saw one which actually, Tanya, you answered at the end of it, but it'd be worth reiterating, saying, is the Corn Exchange now ready? And is it possible to visit the venue prior to the deadline of the application? So it might be worth just reiterating that one because it is very important. So over to you, Tanya.
Yeah, well, the redevelopment is not yet complete. We're in the final throes of that. We haven't got a precise date right now, as is the nature of these things, but we do know that it will be kind of handed back to us, if you like, in the next handful of months. We have regular, as you can imagine, you know, it's an active building site, basically. So actually just being able to walk on site at any time isn't possible. So there's a particular time each week that we've identified as being convenient to those on site, which is 3:45 on Tuesdays. It's very precise, but I mean, that we can accommodate other requests, you know, in unusual circumstances, but essentially, we try to sort of cluster together people that are interested in getting onto the site and having a tour at that time. So do shout if that's of interest to you.
Thank you, Tanya. And actually it follows on to a similar one, which is who should we contact to arrange a visit and as well to access the archives. And so what we'd quite like to do is if you email us at, we've got a bulk email, which is heritagexr@digicatapult.org.uk. And I'll go to myself and my colleague Charles, and we'll collect all of the requests and forward those on to BDBF so we can get them all in one place. So we'll share that with you so that you can access that, but please, yes, do email that with any questions, any requests, and we'll, as Tanya said, try and facilitate as many of those as we can before the deadline. Brilliant. I think that answers another one. In terms of accessing the archives of the Corn Exchange, I don't know, actually, Alex, if you'd like to maybe touch a bit more on terms of what you can provide for that information.
Yeah, sadly we don't have an archive that you can visit, but it's being moved as we speak somewhere else. So, but what we have got is a wealth of kind of digital information. So if you approach us on a particular subject, then I can get back to you with images and text and research from our heritage volunteers as well. And also, if we don't know something, if you ask us a question we can't answer, we will endeavour to find out.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Brilliant. I can see a quick question about, will these slides recording be made available afterwards for reference? Yes, we will be publishing it, and we'll send around an email notifying you that it is available, so you'll be able to access these questions and the whole recording afterwards if you want to revisit any of the information for it. I can see I've also missed one regarding 5G. So will a mobile AR app with an immersive experience over 5G be an example of what you are looking for? And this is definitely one example of how you can incorporate 5G into your immersive experience, and definitely one way of looking at it. We also have, there are other options, and so what we can do is, if you have any questions on that, Fariborz, who's our lead 5G technologist who will be supporting us on the programme, we can put you in touch with him and see if there's any other ideas that you want to think about or understand a bit more of what the possibilities are with the test beds we have available we're more than happy to facilitate that as well. But that is a perfect example of something that you can do. Sorry, just looking through this. Oh, so we have a question. You mentioned in the brief that immersive technology should be a vehicle and not a tool. Can you please elaborate on that? I don't know if someone from BDBF potentially wants to handle that first, or I'm happy, or we also have Nicole. Would you like to take that one first?
I can make a stab at that one. So absolutely. So we're thinking, I suppose, yes, obviously, when we looked at our definitions of immersive technologies, there was like games, engines and stuff being mentioned in there, which obviously do factor into it, for example, like with screen-based experiences. I think it's just kind of a way of experiencing the final product, but it can be used as part of the creation process as well. So it kind of backs into both, but thinking about it as like the end product as well as maybe how you are creating it throughout. I'll hand over to BDBF if they want to add anything from their perspective on how they'd like things displayed or experienced.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you know, this project and the partners, the collaborators here, you know, we've all got very kind of different areas of expertise, and I am no expert on 5G and its applications, but I do know when I've seen things that that work well. And from where we stand, you know, we are, you know, the arts is about stories. Normally, it's kind of as simple as that, but it's about making, you know, a real connection with audiences. You know, something that feels authentic and feels real. So I suppose that what I'm thinking about with that question is about, you know, how you can use these various tools available to make something that does have a kind of real human connection. So that's what that question makes me think about.
Thank you. Hopefully given a bit of insight to that one. I think that definitely covers it. There's loads of questions, and just to say that if we do run out of time in this session, we will take all of them and look to reply to them offline, or kind of publish more information. But it's great to see so many people engaged with it. So we've got one saying, do you have a preference for something that takes place inside or outside one of the venues? Tanya or Amanda, would you like to take that one?
Can you repeat the question? Inside is the question about whether it's inside or outside?
Yes, one of the venues. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I do know that if it's something that uses 5G, that it therefore needs to be inside the venues, because that's what is licensed, and we're not licensed to do that outside of the venues. However, you know, the Royal Pavilion master plan, you know, in the next phase of the master plan, we're bringing in the garden itself, the pavilion garden, into play. We're interested in lots of different stories, and, you know, lots of different ways of telling those stories. I think, though, that in this particular project, given that we've only kind of got 3 kind of awards to give, if you like, I feel that if the focus was on the Corn Exchange, that is probably a really useful endeavour for now. I think that there's way you could bring in, you know, if it were to take place in the Corn Exchange, that would be amazing, and bringing in stories from around the estate, you know, if that were useful. But I would equally say, possibly unhelpfully, we're not closed to an idea that is outside. Yeah, you know, we've done some amazing heritage related things on the estate. Thinking back, I should have put a slide in on Dr. Blighty, actually, which was something that we did, a large video mapping project that we did on the east lawn and on the side of the Royal Pavilion Palace, which was really, really interesting. And, you know, talk about bringing, you know, history to life. That really, really did that, and also stop the traffic in the streets, which was an unforeseen consequence of that, but was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, we're open to your ideas. Maybe if you wanted to chat a bit more, whoever asked that question, if you've got something specific in mind, maybe we have more of a detailed conversation about that, if that's useful. I don't mean now, I mean
no, we can try and facilitate. And Amanda, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, support Tanya completely on that. Really open to hearing what the different ideas are. I guess I noticed there was another question there about, you know, do we want this project to focus specifically on certain areas, or can it focus on the estate as a whole? And I guess I would encourage you to focus on the presentation that Tanya's given today, and recall that really we as an organisation, Brighton Dome Brighton Festival, are principally focused on Brighton Dome Concert Hall, Corn Exchange and the Studio Theatre. Having said that, we're part of a master plan and part of a wonderful world-class estate. So it's about looking at where are the stories and how can they interact with the spaces that Tanya has described. You know, for example, she's mentioned that the concert hall was the Prince Regent's riding stables and the Corn Exchange was his riding school. So are there stories that could be told perhaps about the Prince, without leading anyone? I'm just, you know, like Tanya, these are just, you know, my own thoughts, but the Prince Regent used to visit his horses via an underground tunnel. He would come and appear on a balcony in the Corn Exchange to watch them exercise. You know, there's an interesting link to the Royal Pavilion being obviously his party palace, but actually exploring the stories of what he did in those three spaces. So that's just an example.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think that's very helpful. As you can see, we don't want to limit you in your thoughts and want as wide an array, but there is a great amount of resources available. I've got one which I'll pass it myself and Chris can potentially answer, which is it worth applying if you're a small B2C startup, which I would kind of start off with saying that definitely ourselves at Digital Catapult welcome applications from smaller startups and scale-ups, and we really want to see a range of organizations applying, and it won't be working against you. It's more that you can showcase in your proposal that you can deliver what you set out to. And Chris, I mean, you work with a lot of organizations like this, so maybe you want to touch on this as well.
Yeah, so I think what the point you made as well about being able to deliver it is quite important. I don't think there's necessarily like an objection to a hard line against like one-man bands, but it's going to be harder and more work for that one person to deliver. We at the Fusebox here, we run a space where we deal mostly with startups and small businesses, and typically teams up to about 3. And so we're very familiar with helping those businesses connect and share knowledge together. And that's one of the things that we may be able to support with is, you know, if you don't have all the skills, but you just need a little bit of extra expertise on a couple of pieces, there's a really good collaborative space here to share some ideas around.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I'm aware, Nicole, you have to shoot off, so you can say goodbyes, but also that she'll be available if you've got any more questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. Apologies that I do have to drop off a little bit early. Please do get in touch if you've got any questions around Immersive, and we will endeavour to get back to you as much as we can. Thank you ever so much. Bye.
Thank you. And thanks very much, Nicole. It's brought to our awareness that potentially the email might have an issue with it, so we'll be sharing around another email in the meantime, but we will find out what the issue is as quickly as possible. So please do resend the emails to the email that I think we're going to update you with in the chat, so that you can access that one. So we've got another question regarding audio archives. So are there any audio archives, or if so, how can we access them, and are they extensive? I'll pass that over to Alex.
Sadly, not extensive. It depends what you mean by audio. If you mean recordings of concerts, etc., we have very, very few. We have recently done an oral history project, which reflects on people's memories of the buildings and association with buildings. So it depends what you mean by audio, really. Say audio recordings. There are some bands that have done live recordings at the Dome, if that's of any interest, or live DVD recordings. But apart from various oral history interviews, we don't have very much, I'm afraid.
But we do have lots of oral histories, and there's been a relatively recent project to collect more oral histories, and actually that's part of what this National Lottery Heritage Fund project that we've been part of for a while now has been helping us afford to train up research volunteers to be able to take oral histories, because there's sort of particulars around how you do that for them to be formally recognised as oral histories. And so we've actually been building up our collection of those, and some of those are really, really interesting. You know, getting people who were, is there like the taxi driver?
Yeah, there's the taxi driver who took ABBA from Eurovision back to Brighton Station, I think. They are listenable to on the website. The project is called I Was There, and it's on the heritage pages of brightondome.org. So we've been working with a sound artist called Anahita Wilson. So yeah, there are some there, and there are slightly more in the archive that we didn't quite embed into that project. But yes, this depends what you mean by audio.
Brilliant. Maybe if you are the person, I think a couple of people asked those questions. So if you want to follow up with the email, I'm aware that my colleague Charles's email has been put into the chat. So if you either follow up with the question in the chat, we've got a few minutes left to be able to ask, or follow up there, and we can kind of decide what that means and lead you to the right person to be able to answer those. So then we've got another question, again, similarly about the heritage. So are you chiefly interested in exploring Dome-specific heritage, or the heritage of the pavilion in general? For example, heritage related to food and the Great Kitchen. Interesting.
Ooh.
I'm happy to chip in on that, Sarah. That was the question I was hoping to answer earlier, really, was to say, you know, we are obviously Brighton Dome Brighton Festival as an organisation, and we're specifically interested in our three spaces, but the stories of how the estate in general interact with that. So hopefully that earlier answer gave that. I noticed on the question there are quite a lot of questions about content, and I would probably, I don't know how Alex or Tanya or indeed Chris or Sarah feel, but I would be particularly keen, I think, to emphasise that what we're really interested in here is finding new ways to interpret heritage. And that actually, when it comes to deciding the successful projects, we'll be looking really for the use, the use of technology and the use of the experience, and what audiences or what participants will feel and experience when they're part of that, as opposed to, I think, getting hung up on which particular story we want to tell. For me, certainly that sounds odd to say it, but for me, that's slightly less important. There are some rich stories when you go to the link on the website. I hope you'll agree with us. There are just so many amazing stories to tell, and we want to tell all of them, in lots of different ways. But for me, this project is about how do we push the boundaries of heritage interpretation, and I would possibly encourage you to maybe do some external research on heritage exhibition designers and what is happening internationally in terms of heritage interpretation. Who are the organizations that are really pushing the boundaries in terms of how you understand and appreciate our heritage, and how does it really help us make better sense of the world today, and indeed inspire the world that we want for the future. That's what we're much more interested in, and I'd probably encourage you to not worry just so much about, well, which story are you most interested in telling. That's not our focus here. It's about how do we really push the boundaries of bringing heritage interpretation forward, and creating new experiences that, as I say, are very indeed new and exciting, and help us, as I say, look at the world in different ways.
Thanks very much, Amanda. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that, but I thought that was a very nice summary exactly of what we're looking for in this. I can see another one. Sorry, there's lots of questions here, which is great. There was one: is this intended to be led by artists or by companies? Which is a very thoughtful question. We would say that, as we said, with the eligibility criteria, we are looking for everyone and anyone that would like to deliver the project. And so actually, I don't know if, Tanya, you want to lead this one from your work with artists, but we can lead it from more of a organization and business perspective. I'll hand it over to you first.
Well, I think really, Sarah, you sort of covered that in your introduction in the presentation, that it is whoever is eligible. And if you call yourself an artist, great, but if you call yourself something else, you know, because you're working in a specific heritage field or in a specific digital field, I might call you an artist. But you know, I wouldn't get hung up on labels as such. Or maybe the question means, is it about an individual or a collective? I'm not sure. I think it is. I think Chris has sort of already talked to that as well. But I think it is, going back to the presentation, it is, if you are eligible, then by all means apply. Creative ideas.
Exactly. I think that, as we were saying, we're not, we didn't want to be restrictive in terms of who we said it, and that's why we gave such a exhaustive list of different types of organizations that might apply, and that also applies to artists as well, if that's how you identify. But it is, again, down to exactly what Chris was saying about being able to deliver the proposal you set out, and that's the kind of the key thing, and the idea behind it is what we're really looking for. We've got another few minutes, and then I'll be passing over to Chris, and he'll be able to go a bit more into detail about the amazing support they're going to be offering with the FuseBox. So I'll look through. I can see quite a few, there's a couple of questions related around the 5G aspects. And so what I would say we'll do there is we'll look to update the website, and we'll give some of these kind of examples that you're looking for of how you can incorporate it. And from what we've done previously, a good example will be the Spring project that we've done before, that we've run at Digital Catapult, but I think it'll be best placed if we update it on the website, and then we'll be able to give you more information and direct you to that there. We've got a question which I think I might need a bit of clarification, but maybe someone else on the panel might be able to give a bit more insight. Can the immersive experience be about products to be used by future shows that the artist might use to augment shows / live virtual shows? This does not include heritage. So I believe that potentially would be, I'm a bit unsure about that one. So if you wouldn't mind, if anyone else wants to take it, but maybe it might be useful, that person wouldn't mind submitting a follow-up in terms of what you mean from that perspective, and we'll be happy to answer it. I think we've got time for 2 more questions. Sorry, there's a lot more on here. There's a quick one here in terms of, can we submit more than one project? Yes, you definitely can. That's not a problem at all. We'll welcome if you're submitting multiple different ones. That won't hinder you. As a quick one, this one, will the content we create exclusively belong to the project, even though we already have a similar commercial product in the market? Just to flag on this one, happy to pass over also to BDBF. So what will be happening through the program is that you will retain, in regards to IP, you will retain anything that you have previously, so any background IP, but anything that you jointly create with us on the program will be jointly shared between yourselves and BDBF. And then what this will mean is that after the program, you'll engage kind of in a conversation of how you then want to move forward in that respect. But it's a good one just to highlight for people's awareness, and happy to take any more questions on that offline over email if you have. But Tanya, Amanda, if you do have any more points, is that okay? Yes, perfect. Great. Brilliant. Just seeing if there's any more kind of quick answer ones, but it's great. Thank you so much for all these questions, and we'll definitely save these and make sure to answer them offline. So please make sure to direct to the email if there's anything you want a follow-up on. I can see one about the ideation to demo process and the connection with FuseBox, but if that's okay, Chris, you'll be talking a bit literally in a minute about that. But here we go. We'll talk with one last one, which is, are you focused entirely on new experiences for audiences, or would you consider applications that might enable the organization to deliver experiences? So I think, yes, Tanya, you're nodding there. So I don't know if you want to cover that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand what the question is, but yes, we have imagined that it could well be that you're already working on something. You have something up your sleeve. You have an application that's already functioning in some way that you could build upon and extend and develop through this project. it might not be an entirely, you know, it probably won't actually be an entirely from scratch project for you, if that's what that question means. But yes, we love that idea.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm aware of the time, and I've tried to scroll through as many of the questions as I can. But as a summary, we'll update the page in regard to the 5G aspect, because I can see there's quite a few questions on that. So I think it'll be easier to kind of do a bulk load of information to answer those ones. And if you do have any other questions, the new email has gone into the chat, which is for my colleague, which is charles.waples@digicatapult.org.uk. So we'll be happy to field all the questions here. But thank you very much for all those questions. It's great to see the engagement, and thank you very much, Amanda, Alex, Tanya, and Chris, and Nicole, who has now left, for those answers. It's been a great sense to see the interest in what your questions are, and so we'll make sure to update the webpage with the information regarding that. So now I'd like to invite Chris Chowan to stay on screen, and Tanya, Alex, and Amanda, if you wouldn't mind muting and going off camera, and we'll now be going. Okay, perfect, if you want to share straight away. So I'll be handing over to Chris Chowan from Wide Sussex, and he'll be giving an introduction to what Wide Sussex is and some of the support they're going to be offering on the programme. Over to you, Chris.
Lovely. Hello, everyone. Thank you for hanging around and waiting for the Q&A to hear a little bit from me. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I wanted to share about our fantastic space, the Fusebox, and what we do here and how we can support you if you're successful on your application. My name's Chris Chowan, and I'm the Innovation and Technology Manager at the Fusebox, and I work for Wired Sussex. And my goal here really is to help support people access technology and the latest tech and get to work with it as easily and as seamlessly as possible. This is the Fusebox. We run an open plan innovation hub. The idea being that we put the right people, the brilliant minds together in a space where they can all collaborate and share freely, and naturally innovation occurs. And we've had some fantastic results as a result of companies meeting each other here, joining together here, or creating whole new products and experiences together. We like to call ourselves a hands-free incubator because it doesn't actually require too much extra attention. The nice thing is that we're just based, we're in central Brighton, so we're if you can access the Dome and Corn Exchange easily, then you can most likely access us quite easily. We're just a 5-minute walk away from Brighton Station. We're in a big building called New England House. And yeah, our goal is to support digital entrepreneurs, tech visionaries, and creative technologists who want to turn their ideas into successful innovations. We work with individuals, startups, small teams, and those developing new digital ideas and exciting businesses. We also run a whole load of events at the Fusebox, and these can be a great way to spark some ideas and get the ball rolling, or also to help meet people. Again, if people are just sat at their desks working on ideas, you don't necessarily get a great chance to collaborate. But once we bring people together for an event, all sorts of things happen. I was also going to mention a couple of the projects that we've run recently. Notably, having worked with Digital Catapult and Brighton Dome and Brighton Festival in the past, we actually got to work on the 5G festival at the Dome. What we were doing was something called alternative stages, which is kind of like the side stage at the music festival. And for this festival, we built a virtual reality gig venue using a platform called Mozilla Hubs, which allows people to watch virtual gigs in grassroots Brighton music venues from anywhere around the world. And we worked with Platform B, which is the local radio station. And I believe actually some of that team is on the call today. So yeah, hi. Also, by making it web-based, it was really cool because it was accessible on all manner of devices, from virtual reality headsets all the way through to smartphones and laptops, which is a key value of accessibility to us, of making it not just a VR thing. And also everyone could log in as an avatar. Other events, we run bi-monthly, soon to be monthly show and tell events, which is basically just a chance for our residents, we call our members or people who work in the Fusebox residents, and it's an opportunity for them, but also the wider public to come in and demo and show off what they're working on. it's a judgment-free environment. We just want to have a place where people can come and get feedback from the right people, and people who aren't going to judge them, or there's not going to be any risk to losing their intellectual property. We've also had demos in the past from the likes of OpenBrush, but also Vario VR headsets, and also Brighton Museum have even come up to show some of the projects they're working on. Also, we run a parallel series of events called Talking Tech, where we bring people in who, if they have a specialist area and want to share some of their research or some of their knowledge with our residents, we host Talking Tech events, kind of ad hoc, and we bring people in to give talks. Recently, Bright Black, who possibly might also be on this call, they talked about their work utilizing virtual production with Industrial Light and Magic in Belfast, which was really interesting to see how you could build a virtual production setup for a much smaller budget as well. And in the past, we've had speakers like Google, NASA, and OpenAI just to get the ideas rolling. We also have a whole load of resources at the Fusebox. We're not just a desk space and a place to work. We also have a big event space, which is usable to roll out large-scale VR experiences, or just to record motion capture on a large scale. We have the green screen here, which we can record people in mixed reality, as you can see on that TV screen. And we have the space that I'm in at the moment, which is our sort of virtual reality development suite, which is kitted out with nearly all the headsets and equipment that you could need, and I'll get to some of that in a moment. For the Heritage XR, we will support successful applicants by providing access to the Fusebox and giving you practical support throughout the program. This includes access to the Brighton Immersive Lab, which is part of the room that I'm in right now, and also all the equipment, which I'll cover some of that in a moment. Assistance from me, the Technology and Innovation Manager. I'm here to help liaise and help fill in some of the gaps on technical skills if you haven't worked with a certain piece of equipment before. And also we have the conventional benefits of hot desks, meeting rooms, workshopping space, and also bottomless coffee, which as a tech space is very important. As far as the technologies that we work with here, as you can see behind me, we work heavily with virtual reality. We also work with augmented reality headsets. We have some of the latest in 360 camera technology, and we have a whole range of other peripheral technologies such as volumetric displays. If I keep going. In the VR side, we can provide nearly every released VR headset on the market, ranging from standalone headsets like the Oculus Quest, through to professional desktop headsets like the Vive Pro and the Vario Aero, which are much higher resolution. We even have a number of some of these headsets if you need multiple. As far as augmented reality is concerned, we have augmented reality headsets such as the Magic Leap and the Microsoft HoloLens. For augmented reality, this really allows you to overlay digital content over the real world rather than just overlaying a completely digital world around the user. This works really well in the heritage setting, and also new VR headsets now also provide the ability to mix the realities together and see a pass-through camera of the real world. 360, we have our Insta360 Pro 2, which is a very high quality 3D 360 camera, and it records in stereoscopic up to 8K resolution. I always describe it as visual teleportation when you experience a 3D 360 movie. It is one of the closest things to being moved to a different location, and it's very good for empathy and developing and telling stories. We also have smaller cameras which are available for experimentation if the pressure of using a large piece of kit like the Insta is intimidating. And peripheral equipment. So the Fusebox, like the Dome and Chord Exchange, is a 5G testbed, and we have the Brighton 5G testbed is located here. So we have 5G enabled devices, and with support from Digital Catapult, we'll be able to provide access to that testbed if you need to test parts of the 5G functionality before going on site. We also have volumetric displays such as the Looking Glass, which is essentially a 3D TV, but without the need for glasses. We have motion capture suits for recording animation, dance performances, acting, all those sorts of things. We have the green screen I showed earlier. And we also have 3D scanning technology specifically designed for 3D scanning environments, but also for 3D scanning objects and people. So I think that's everything, but we have plenty more equipment here as well, including podcast setups and anything else that you might need. I wanted to just show some of the technologies and how they're being used and potentially how they could spark some ideas for how they could be used in the heritage sector. Notably, recently, Niantic, the people behind Pokemon Go, released their augmented reality platform called Lightship. What's really cool with Lightship is it allows you to overlay augmented reality content over real-world locations based on very accurate mapping. This is really good for telling stories, as you can obviously add interactive content to, for instance, to the Dome and to the Corn Exchange. Another new technology that's recently advanced massively is 3D scanning. Of course, it's now possible to quite quickly 3D scan on just a smartphone and rapidly capture assets and detailed spaces. However, a new technology called NERF, or a neurally enhanced radiance fields, allows people to capture 3D models in almost a photoreal quality, which has some, again, fantastic opportunities for preservation. On the virtual reality side, I saw this recently in the news. There's a tour bus in Rome that's designed where the windows are replaced by screens, and as you drive around the city of Rome, you actually are driving through a 3D render of ancient Rome overlaid over the top. And this is a really interesting combination of virtual reality, heritage, and an element of virtual production as well, of how you can mix all these different mediums together, and again tell a really compelling story. And lastly, I'll take my glasses off, but we've been playing around with some of the artificial intelligence out there recently to generate artwork in particular settings. So you can train an AI now on a particular style of an artwork and then have that preserved and recreate artworks in that style. For instance, here, it's meant to be me in an 18th century portrait, but I'll let you judge. And I think I've covered over most of these points, so I'm just going to whistle stop through them again. But yeah, location-based AR is really exciting. 3D modeling is another area that we can help support. Obviously, virtual reality is an area that we specialize in, and so we have all the equipment that you could need there. And on the generative art side, we have high-spec graphics cards that are able to work on some of these AI projects that are now needing very powerful GPUs. And we also have a server facilities downstairs called the Brighton Digital Exchange, which can provide you server infrastructure that can be networked and connected to the Dome if needed. And that is, I believe, it for me. I don't want to keep anyone waiting too much longer, and we have time, hopefully, if there's anyone got any specific questions about the FuseBox, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks very much, Chris. I mean, there's a wealth of equipment and knowledge that people can access through Wide Sussex. And actually, there was a quick one that I saw come through while we have one moment, which was, are the devices, equipment and 3D headsets free to use or for rental?
Yes. So as part of a successful application, you'll be granted residency at the FuseBox, which means that the equipment is now well, within fair use terms, free to use and available to access whenever you need. And we have policies in place for taking equipment off site as well if you need to, because of course, 360 cameras aren't much use if they stay in an office the whole time.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Chris. And hopefully that's given everyone an idea of really the wealth of support that you can really get from this program. And so now, Chris, if you could turn your camera off. Perfect. So now to finish us off, I would like to pass over to my colleague, Charles Waples, who's Innovation Delivery Manager at Digital Catapult. And he's going to be talking about, now you've heard about the program, how you can apply and what you can expect to come up. So over to you, Charles.
Thanks very much, Sarah, and nice to meet everybody today. Some amazing presentations. Just up to me, an Innovation Delivery Manager here working on the program to go through some of the next steps and all the dates and times involved. You don't have to try and remember this now. We will, of course, be sending them out, but just to let you know how we plan to flow this through into next year. So at the moment, as you know, the open call is live and closes December 13th. And from there, from December 13th for a calendar month to the middle of January, we'll be long listing selections of the applications alongside BDBF and Wired Sussex, bringing us to January, where in the week commencing 23rd, we expect to do a pitch day. And from there, the 30th of January to the 3rd of February, there'll be a final selection process between us, followed in February between the 6th and the 27th, a contracting period for the pieces of demonstrator that we choose to put forward. So thank you. That's how that works. That's a lot of dates. You will be sent them out again. All of the stuff around this and how to proceed is available on our website, of course, and you can see the program on there at FutureScope Digital Catapult. That's easy Googleable. Just look for Heritage XR and you'll find it. And to register interest there, you'll then be sent a form, which is at the bottom of the page. We ask you if you could complete the applications, as I said, by the 13th of December this year. So that's not far off. We had some problems with our email earlier, and thanks to our events team and quick thinking, we've changed it to mine. So if you could, in the first instance, contact me with any questions at all. And indeed, if you would like to take part in a 15-minute chat, there are still some slots available for any other further questions on the programme. I realise that's a lot of information, but we will be sending it all out again. I think that's me, Sarah. Back to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Charles. And as he was saying, there's a lot of dates being flung around, but we'll be sharing all this information afterwards and the slides. And we've seen that there's still some questions that have been coming through, and we really thank you for your engagement over this past hour and a bit. So all that's really left to say is thank you very much for attending and taking the time this morning to ask questions, to listen to all of our presenters, and we'll be taking all those questions and updating our webpage so that we can reflect the kind of questions that you've all been asking and making sure that that's reflected. And also, as we've said, please do get in contact with now Charles's email if you'd like to gain access to the site or more information about the resources, the archives, the fuse box, anything you've heard about today. We'd be happy to give more information. So there's nothing else to say, but thank you very much. And we look forward to hopefully seeing some of your applications soon over the next couple of weeks. So we hope have a great day and hopefully look forward to seeing those soon. Thanks very much. Goodbye.